Valuable teaching is about impact, not effort for effort's sake. So let's focus on what truly helps you and your students grow. I want you to give yourself permission to let go of the tasks that really don't matter. Let go of the tasks that really don't move the needle. Let go of the tasks that don't make the life-changing impact that you thrive on as an educator. Hey, teachers. Welcome to the Lead, Serve, Teach podcast, where we explore the intersection of leadership, education, and personal growth. I'm your host, D. Paul Miller, and I'm so glad that you've joined me here for a little bit of real talk. So let me ask you something. How often do you, as teachers, feel like you're putting in maximum effort, but you still find yourself questioning, am I really making a difference? If that resonates with you today, first I want to say you're not alone. Today, I want to talk about something that's crucial for every teacher and every leader out there. And that's, any teacher out there wanting to make an impact. Really, it's so important to understand the difference between what's truly valuable and, maybe what's just difficult to achieve. So let's dive in and take a look today.
A lesson that Rogan taught me when I went on his show last year. And I called it Rogan's Value Difficulty Conflation. Look at the car he's driving, look at the watch he's wearing, look at the girl he's with. That's unattainable to many people, so it seems like it's valuable. But then you attained it. And then you realized, oh, this isn't valuable, this is just difficult to get. And there's a difference, there's a big difference. What's valuable is something that fulfills you intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and lovingly. Most smart people realize that there is value in stepping outside of their comfort, that on the other side of discomfort is something valuable. We're told that worthwhile things are difficult to attain, because if they weren't difficult to attain, they wouldn't be worthwhile. This is how non-valuable but difficult things get slipped into our desires without us noticing. Attaining something worthwhile is often going to be difficult, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's worthwhile.
You know, this topic hits home for me because I remember how easy it was, especially as a new teacher, to get caught up in the grind, the everyday grind that we as teachers face. Your lesson planning, your grading, you're handling paperwork, attending meetings, and managing discipline in that classroom. You know, it feels like you're running a marathon every single day. I remember being a first-year teacher and having to complete what they call the Common Board configuration every day. And if you don't know what the Common Board configuration was, it was a simple idea, a good idea even. And so at my school, when I first started teaching back in 2005, 20 years ago, we all had wonderful, beautiful whiteboards installed in our classrooms. And one of the things they wanted us to do was every day come in and we would write everything that we were going to do. And it was much more than just an agenda. I would even say that it was almost like taking your lesson plan that you would normally put on paper, maybe that you would save in your computer, and you're kind of putting it on the whiteboard for everyone to see. So, for example, if an administrator came in your classroom, they could see exactly what you're teaching that day, maybe what standards you were teaching on that day, maybe what your objectives were for that day, your goals for the lesson. Maybe you had the outcomes written there. You know, for the students, they would come in, they would always be looking for that agenda. What am I doing first? What am I doing second? And again, looking towards that goal for that lesson, to really having something that was usable by multiple people. The teacher could keep themselves on track. The administrators coming in the classroom could see what's going on and where everyone was at. They could go, administrators could even go to multiple classrooms. For example, if they went into an Algebra 1 classroom, they could see exactly what was happening each day and where the teachers were at, how they were collaborating together. So a great idea, nothing wrong with it. But as a first-year teacher, when you're told to build this Common Board configuration, and let's say for someone like myself that maybe didn't have the best handwriting, I would spend quite a long time writing out. And of course, I was also teaching 3 prep. So I had to take my whiteboard and divide it into 3 different sections, one for each of the classes I was teaching at that inner city high school where I started teaching. And as a first-year teacher, I wanted to make sure it was absolutely perfect. I wanted to make sure that if my administrator came to the classroom, they would know exactly what was going on. And they would walk away saying, wow, Mr. Miller had the best Common Board configuration that I've ever seen. And so I found that extremely important. And It actually was something that I had to spend time on every single day. Before I left, I knew I would not have time in the morning before school started to actually do my Common Board. So it happened every day after school. I would spend maybe, I mean, a little embarrassed to say it, I might even spend well over an hour making sure that I took my time, that my handwriting was good, and that I would get all of the Common Board configuration elements written on that board. And again, it was kind of like transferring everything from the lesson plan onto the board, smushing it together and making it something that was used every single day in the classroom. So it did have some importance. It did serve a purpose. Now, was it worth that extra hour after school every day? Well, now 20 years later, if I could go back and do it again, I would still do my Common Board configuration, but maybe I wouldn't be so worried about my handwriting. Maybe I wouldn't be so worried about including every little single element off of my lesson plan and regurgitating it onto my whiteboard. Maybe I would spend it on building lessons that engaged students where they could read, write, think, and talk about the topic that I was teaching on. Maybe I would spend that time on making sure that the lesson would catch their attention, that I was speaking about a topic and giving them a way to access that lesson. Maybe spending time on gamifying the lesson so that they would find it fun and entertaining. I wish I would have spent more time on focusing on the impact that the lesson would have on my students rather than making sure that my whiteboard skills were the second to none, were the best in the school. So here's the real question for all of my educators, all of my teachers, all of my leaders out there. Are you focusing on the things that truly make a difference? Today, we're going to try to figure out together how to focus on what's valuable for your students, maybe what's valuable for your career, while letting go of the tasks that drain you without ever moving the needle. I was inspired recently by a video posted by Chris Williamson where he talks about the difference between what's hard and what's useful. And that distinction is key for us as educators, for us as teachers. It is absolutely vital for us to figure this out in order to make an impact, the change, the life change that we want for our students. So let's start by breaking it down. When you think of the word valuable, just take a moment. Think about that word valuable. What is valuable in your world? What is valuable to you as a teacher? What's valuable to you as a man or woman, husband, wife, child, brother, sister? What is valuable? One of the things that in the video that Chris Williamson posted, he said he was actually being interviewed by Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan told him specifically, he said, the things that have value are things that fulfill you intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and lovingly. Well, it's quite interesting hearing Joe Rogan's take on that shared by Chris Williamson. And, Chris Williamson made an excellent point in his video. Sometimes we confuse what's hard with what's important. Just because something feels tough, something feels hard to do, well, it doesn't really mean that it's worth our time. And I think in education, we oftentimes get this mixed up. The idea that, this idea of what is valuable, we take it and we put it in this world of education. Thinking about the Common Board configuration, for the students, they would come in my classroom, they'd be looking exactly at the agenda. They would want to, what are these tasks that I'm doing every day? What are the tasks that my teacher expects of me today? And, valuable tasks, they directly impact your students' learning and growth. I'll say that one more time. Valuable tasks directly impact your students' learning and growth. And, it's in those moments where we provide a valuable task, a valuable action to the students and saying, hey, we want you to read, write, think, learn critically about this topic. It's when that happens that I find most teachers, well, I could even say maybe all teachers, all educators out there, it lights us up. It gives us meaning. It knows that we are fulfilling a purpose. We're creating real change. We are creating meaningful change in our students' lives. So when you create that perfect lesson, that interactive lesson, and it keeps the students engaged and they're actually talking with you as the teacher, they're talking with each other and collaborating. They're engaged in discussing this topic at a high level. You know that you have won the day. You go home fulfilled, pumped up about what you're doing. Now, on the flip side of doing that, now that's not easy to create those perfect lessons by any means. It's something that's difficult to achieve, but there's other tasks that are difficult to achieve. And I think a lot of times as teachers, we tend to pour a lot of energy into things that maybe we see as challenging, maybe we see as a difficult task, but really don't yield any significant results. We sit there and we'll grab this spreadsheet and we'll look at our students' data and we'll spend so much time looking at all this data, and data is so important. We spend time testing our students. We have them go through interim assessments, formative assessments, and we have them do this, and then we get this data back. And if we're not careful, we can spend a whole lot of time, and I mean hours and hours and hours sifting through this data. And I don't know that sifting through the data and just seeing what is happening with our students, well, that has value, don't get me wrong, but that in itself is not going to yield results. It's in actually taking action based on what we see in that data. It's in moving forward that we start to see those significant results that we want to see as educators. And so, Chris Williamson, again, he talks about this and he says, just because something feels hard, feels tough, doesn't mean it's worth our time. And so if we spend, I don't know, 10 hours, let's say, sifting through student data, and we do pivot tables and we change the format of the data, we look at it from different ways. Again, all has value, but we have to start getting to the point of taking action on that data and said, hey, this is how I'm going to change what I'm teaching. This is how I'm going to determine what is important for my students to know. And we take action on that rather than spending maybe a few more hours looking at that same data. Maybe it's more important to start taking those critical actions. In my case, again, maybe rather than spending so much time with this expo marker in my hand, doing a common board configuration, my first year teaching, maybe I would have been better served. Maybe my students would have been better served by me taking more time and investing it in building relationships with those students. Maybe it would have been more valuable for me to spend more time after school developing my lessons and thinking about how interactive, engaging, what collaborative elements I was putting in there for the students to again, read, write, think, and talk about what they're learning. Maybe if I'd have spent more time on that rather than making sure my handwriting was perfect, I would have had more significant results. That's kind of where this starts. And really, if you're saying, all right, Paul, I hear what you're saying, I understand it, but how do I tell the difference? How do I tell the difference between something that's just hard for the sake of being hard and something that's hard and is going to provide those results? And I think there's a simple question that you can ask yourself. It's a tangible item you can take and use every day in your career from now on. You ask yourself this simple question: does this task energize me or does it exhaust me? So let's unpack this real quick. Again, imagine you're spending time creating a project-based learning activity where your students are going to collaborate, think critically, and they're going to come away excited about the topic that you're teaching on. And you feel energized by this process because you're going to see the growth. You're going to feel the impact and truly receive the joy of teaching. Now, flip that around, compare it to spending your evening reformatting a spreadsheet for hours. You're tired, you're frustrated, and you're questioning whether it's really worth it. That's exhaustion. And here's the thing: you don't have to say yes to everything that comes across your desk. As a school principal now, 20 years into my education career, I often have so much come across my desk. There's so many requests. There's so many, hey, can you be at this event? Hey, would you like to do this? Hey, I'm planning to do this project here. Hey, this parent has a question about this class. There's so much that comes across my desk. And if I don't spend the time to determine what is most valuable, what's going to have the biggest impact on my students and their learning, I can very easily spend all day, many, many hours putting work into doing difficult things and not really move the needle. And so as educators across the board, we have to make sure that we are crystal clear on what is valuable. And when you know what is valuable, when you know the things that energize you, that's when we have to step back and say, how am I going to protect my time and my energy and make sure that it is spent on the things that are truly valuable, the things that truly matter. And that, my friends, is where the magic happens. So here's the big takeaway for today. Valuable teaching is about impact, not effort for effort's sake. So let's focus on what truly helps you and your students grow. I want you to go from here, and I want you to give yourself permission to let go of the tasks that really don't matter. Let go of the tasks that really don't move the needle. Let go of the tasks that don't make the life-changing impact that you thrive on as an educator. Now, don't go running away to your administrator, to your school, and say, hey, I heard this guy on a podcast and he said, I'm not going to do all the paperwork. Don't give up the paperwork, give up doing all the things that I do want you to go back and give yourself permission to let go of the tasks that really aren't making a difference. But if it's a required task, if it's something that you definitely have to do, and we in education know about all the paperwork that has to be done, I do want you to learn how to do that faster. I want you to learn how to put in the effort where it's important on that paperwork and learn how to move through it a little bit faster. I want you to figure out it, maybe go to an expert on campus and ask them, hey, how do you do this paperwork? Maybe there's an ESE school specialist. Maybe there's an administrator you can turn to and just say, hey, I'm spending a lot of time on this task right here. Can you help me get through this a little faster? Because I want to spend my time over here doing something more valuable. And so before we go, I want to challenge you to think about one thing you can let go of in this coming week. One thing that you can let go of to make room for what is more valuable when it comes to teaching your students. I want you to think about one other thing that you can't just let go of. It does have some importance, but maybe you spend too much time on it. It's not something that is having a huge impact on your students' lives. And you need to figure out how to do it quicker. You need to figure out how to be a little bit more efficient with that task so that, again, you can make room for what is so valuable for you, for your students, and for you receiving and, again, feeling that joy of teaching. So let's keep supporting each other. Let's keep focusing on what truly matters in our world of education. And until next time, you're not just a teacher, you are a change maker. You're a champion. So keep striving, keep inspiring, and don't quit. This is D. Paul Miller. I'll see you in the next episode. If you like what you heard here today, if it helped you at all, make sure that you go down, click that subscribe button, share this with another teacher, another leader out there that needs to hear this. I'll see you soon.